What are the half angle formulae in trigonometry? How can you find them? Now, in the previous video, we actually had that if you had a sine 2 alpha, that should give you 2 sine alpha multiplied by cos alpha. And if you had a cos 2 alpha, that could give you two possible values. You could have a 2 cos squared alpha minus a 1, or a 1 minus a 2 sine squared alpha. And if you had a tan 2 alpha, that is going to be equal to 2 tan alpha divided by 1 minus 2 tan squared alpha. Now, what if you do not really have this? What if you need to work something like this? That is a tan alpha divided by 2. How can you actually do it? So the first thing we need to understand is that if I had a, so I'm just going to start with the sine. If I had a sine alpha, that is actually the same thing as a sine 2 multiplied by alpha divided by 2. This is actually correct. If I took a half form of the angle alpha and added it to itself, that is going to give me the single angle. So I know that alpha divided by 2 plus an alpha divided by 2, that is going to give me 2 alpha divided by 2, which is actually equal to the alpha. So you got 2 of the halves, and that should lead you to the singular one. So this is correct. Now, just as you know, we're going to use this form to find out how this is going to look. So this will be 2 sine alpha divided by 2 cos alpha. So I need to rewrite that, divided by 2. This is going to be the first one. Now for the second one, that is for cos alpha. Now we know that this will be written as a, that is a 2 multiplied by alpha divided by 2. Now, as you well know from the previous video, well, I do really hope that you have actually gone through that video. It's actually going to be so important for you to understand that, so that you could actually be able to work this, or at least understand what I'm doing here. So we know that for cosine of a double angle, it majorly or usually forms two answers. You could have a 2 cos squared alpha divided by 2 minus a 1. You could also have a 1 minus a 2 sine squared alpha divided by 2 from that formula. Now, you could also do it by yourself. We know that this should actually lead to something like this. This is going to be cos alpha divided by 2 plus alpha divided by 2. And we know that to work this from the use of the addition formula, that should be a cos alpha divided by 2 cos alpha divided by 2 plus sine alpha divided by 2 multiplied by sine alpha divided by 2. Now this is going to lead us to find a sine squared alpha divided by 2. And here we're going to have a sine squared. Well, this is actually cos squared. I might have not pronounced that. So this is what you're going to have. Now, from what you already know from the trigonometric identities, that is what now leads us to these other ones. I do really recommend that you go through the previous video on double angle formula. The link to the video is actually dropped in the description section. Feel free to check that out. So I'm just going to wipe these ones out. So basically that is what you're going to have. And the other one is for the tangent. So we have tangent, that is tan alpha, and obviously that should be a tan 2 multiplied by alpha divided by 2. So this is going to give us a 2 tan alpha divided by 2. That will be divided by 1 minus a tan squared alpha divided by 2. That will be the answer. Now, let us see what we can do with these forms. Cosine alpha is actually a very consequential or trigonometric identity. So we could actually form new equations from here. And that is basically what we want to look at. Now from the first part, we know that cos alpha, that is equal to 2 cos sub squared alpha divided by 2 minus a 1. And so I want to find what cos alpha divided by 2 is going to look like. That is what is called as a half angle. Now all these that we have found are not yet half angles. So we need to find that out. Now from here, you know that I could make it to be cos. So I think I'm going to take the 1 to the first part. So let us say we have a 1 plus a cos alpha. And that is equal to 2 cos squared alpha divided by 2. Now I'm going to take this away from here. That would give us a 1 plus cos alpha divided by 2. And this will be equal to cos alpha divided by 2. And this is all squared. So I want to take this squared away from there. So that would bring a squared sign on these other side. So with that, we have the first half angle formula. So I'm going to write it here. Cos alpha divided by 2. That is actually going to be a 1. Well, that is a 1 plus cos alpha divided by 2. This is the first half angle formula. Now we could also find the other one. That will be in terms of sine alpha divided by 2. That is if we actually used this form. So let us try to do it. Now from there, I could well say that cos alpha, that is equal to 1 minus 2 sine squared alpha divided by 2. Now as usual, I'm going to take this to the other side. And so I'm going to have a 2 sine squared alpha divided by 2. And on this side, we're going to have a 1 minus a cos alpha in it. Now next, I'm going to take this 2 away from here. And so that should leave us with the sine squared alpha divided by 2. That will be equal to 1 minus cos alpha. And that is all divided by 2. So in order to get just a sine alpha divided by 2, because we know this stuff, this is actually what it means. If you got a sine squared alpha divided by 2, that is the same thing as a sine alpha divided by 2 all squared. So we're actually on track. Everything is in order. So in order to take this away from this place, we need to take the square root of both sides. That would help to cancel this on this other side and take the square root to this other side. So basically what we're trying to say is that you're going to have the second, that is a sine alpha divided by 2. That will be equal to 1 minus cos alpha, and that is divided by 2. So I think I'm going to wipe these out now. Okay. Yeah. So that is what we got for cosine alpha divided by 2, as well as sine alpha divided by 2. Now obviously from here we can find what tan alpha divided by 2 is going to look like. So we know that should obviously be sine alpha divided by 2 divided by cos alpha divided by 2. Now sine alpha divided by 2, this is actually got to be 1. Well, so I need to write it as a subtraction. So that is a 1 minus cos alpha. And of course, we should have this as divided by root 2, because we obviously can split this into the square root form of the numerator as well as the square root form for the denominator. So we're actually going to do the same thing for the cosine of the alpha divided by 2. So here we're going to have a 1 plus a cos alpha. This will be divided by root 2. Obviously, we know what that is going to leave us with. This is going to cancel out. So we should have a new form. So we're going to have a 1 minus a cos alpha that will be divided by a 1 plus a cos alpha. So let us rewrite it. So in this case, we're going to have a new form like this. This is a 1 minus cos alpha that will be divided by 1 plus cos alpha. And so that is basically it. That is the answer for cos alpha divided by 2, sin alpha divided by 2, as well as tan alpha divided by 2. Now let us take a question. So let us say that you were required to find the tan of 22.5. What is this going to give? Now, as you know, we know that this stuff, this is not actually a special angle, so we need to change it to a special angle. Now, you first of all need to know that if you have a 0.5 as the decimal part of that angle, then obviously you got to use a half angle formula. Now, what we need to do is try to find out what is going to be alpha. To get the alpha, you need to multiply 22.5 by 2. So this is going to give us a 45 degree. So this is going to be what we're going to use. So we know that 22.5 rather, that is the same thing as 45 divided by 2. And so if we call these as the alpha, then we're going to have an alpha divided by 2. That is equal to 22.5. And the formula for tan alpha divided by 2 will translate to tan of 45 degree divided by 2. So tan 22.5 degree, that will be equal to the square root of 1 minus cos 45, because we know alpha is obviously going to be equal to 45 degrees. And so this is 1 minus cos 45 divided by 1 plus cos 45. Now what is cos 45? Cos 45 is equal to root 2 divided by 2. So I actually need to use this within that stuff. So I'm going to wipe these stuff out. I think I'm going to wipe this one. Now first, from here we have a 1 minus the root 2 divided by 2. We need to work this. We know this is going to be the same thing as 2 minus 2 divided by root 2 divided by 2. Well, this is a minus root 2 divided by 2. Now that is going to leave us with 2 minus root 2 divided by 2. So that is going to be the answer for 1 minus root 2 divided by 2, which is actually the same thing as a 1 minus cos 45. So therefore, if we want to find what will be 1 plus cos 45, that should be a 1 plus root 2 divided by 2. And this is actually going to be a 2. So this will be a 2 divided by 2 plus a root 2 divided by 2. That is what we're going to have. So I think I'm gonna wipe these out now. So here we're going to have this. We're going to have a 2 minus root 2 all divided by 2 divided by 2 root 2 divided by 2. So I'm going to take these out. Take these also out. Now as usual, you know this is going to cancel. So here we're going to have a 2 minus root 2 divided by 2 plus a root 2. That is what we have. Now I could well split this. I'm going to have a 2 minus root 2 below here. Well, before I do that, let us just try to rationalize the stuff within the square root. That is this stuff. So this stuff, I'm actually going to rationalize it. Now how can I do that? I need to take the denominator and find the conjugate form of it. And I would actually multiply the numerator as well as the denominator with that conjugate. Now the conjugate of a 2 plus a root 2, that is going to be 2 minus root 2. So let us work it. This is going to be 2 minus root 2. That will be divided by 2 plus a root 2 multiplied by 2 minus root 2. And this will be divided by 2 minus root 2. We know obviously this is going to give us a 1. And if you took a 1 and multiplied it by this, that would still give you the same thing as that, which makes it to be as though we didn't actually do anything there. Now, we first need to take this stuff and multiply it with this. Now, if I wanted to do that, that would actually be useful. But in order to do that, I'm actually just going to leave it this way. We know this obviously means a 2 minus a root 2 all squared. And this will be divided by this stuff. Now here we have a 2 plus root 2 multiplied by 2 minus root 2. So this is going to be 2 plus a root 2 multiplied by 2 minus a root 2. Now from here I can split this major square root sign. So we would have this above, and this is going to be root, well that is a 2 rather, minus a root 2 all squared. And this will be divided by this stuff. So I need to work this. What is this going to give? From here you should know that this is actually a difference of 2 squares. So first I need to take this and multiply it with this. That is going to give us a 4. Next up, you're going to have a root 2 multiplied by root 2. That should give you 2. Now you would actually subtract the two numbers. That is basically how to work it. If you have similar numbers between or similar numbers present within two brackets and they are separated with a plus and a minus, in order to FOIL it, you just need to take the first number and multiply it with itself in the other bracket. And take the second number and multiply it with itself in the other bracket. Those answers are actually going to be subtracted from each other. So that is basically how to work it. So in this case, we're going to have a, remember, we were to work tan 22.5 in it. Now here we know this is going to cancel these out. So we should have a 2 minus root 2. This will be divided by this stuff. Now obviously from here we know this should be a 2. Because if you have a 4 minus a 2, that should give you a 2. So we got a root 2 there. Now notice that we're not really yet done. Because from this form, you would actually still be required to rationalize it and take out the square root sign, which is actually present there. So we still need to multiply with the 1. Now this one is typically going to be a root 2 divided by 2. So this is going to be root 2 divided by a root 2, which goes back to the 1. And so actually we haven't actually done anything there, so we're good. So tan 22.5, that is going to be equal to root 2 multiplied by 2 minus root 2. This will be divided by root 2 multiplied by root 2. That should give us a root 4 in it. And the square root of a root, well, the square root of a 4 rather, that is equal to 2. So I just need to write that there. Now here we have a root 2 multiplied by 2. That is going to give us a 2 root 2. And we have a root 2 multiplied by negative root 2. That should give us a minus 2. So we have this divided by 2. From here, we can factor 2 out. So that will be a 2. I would have it. Root 2 minus 1. This is all divided by 2. So obviously this is going to cancel these out. So from here we can see that tan 22.5 degrees, that is equal to a root 2 minus a 1. So that will be the answer to the question. Tan 22.5, that is equal to root 2 minus a 1. So that is basically how to use the half angle formula and solve questions.